The version of Moana that everyone knows seems beautiful, but it hides something that no one had the courage to show. If you have ever felt deceived, manipulated, or realized that you trusted too much in something that seemed right, this video is for you. Stay until the end because I will show you how this story, which seemed about courage and hope, is actually about control, deception, and destruction. From a very young age, Moana demonstrated a unique connection with the sea. The people around her saw it as something beautiful and special, believing that she had been chosen by some positive force of nature. But what no one knew is that this connection hid something much darker. Moana had a dark spot on her body which seemed to grow over time. It was not a common mark, and it also had no apparent explanation. Some thought it was just a birthmark, but she seemed alive, as if she reacted to emotions and situations. As Moana grew older, her relationship with the sea intensified. The ocean moved strangely around her, and she heard sounds that no one else could hear. This invisible communication made it clear that something was calling her. What seemed like a gift was actually a warning in disguise. An ancient and powerful presence, dormant beneath the waters, had been trying to connect with her since the beginning. And Moana, without understanding, was answering the call. Many people in the village saw the girl as someone destined for something great. But none of them imagined that this something was not a mission of salvation, but rather the awakening of a force that should remain forgotten. The mark on her skin was the first sign. It was the key that indicated that Moana had not been born by chance. She was part of a much greater plan, and that plan involved freeing what was hidden at the bottom of the ocean. This moment is the beginning of everything. It shows that Moana's path was already traced before she even understood who she was. What seemed like a gift was actually a trap. And she was at the center of something dangerous that was just waiting for the right moment to begin. Motunui was an island full of life, where everything worked in balance. The crops grew healthily, fish were always present in the sea, and people lived in harmony with nature. But over time, all of this began to change. The crops began to fail. The leaves withered prematurely, the fruits rotted on the tree, and the soil seemed dry even after recent rains. The coconut trees, a symbol of life on the island, began to produce strange coconuts with darkened and unusable insides. The sea, which had always been an abundant source of food, also changed. The fishermen noticed that the fish had disappeared. It was not a simple change in the current. It was as if marine life had completely disappeared from the region. No matter how much they tried to go further and further, their nets returned empty. This phenomenon left everyone confused and frightened. Some residents believed that it was just a natural cycle, something temporary. Others began to suspect that something was wrong with the island. Moana's grandmother was one of the only ones who realized that there was a greater force involved. She said that the island was trying to warn about an imbalance that did not come from nature, but from something deeper. She felt that this imbalance was linked to the sea and to Moana herself. This phase shows that the environment around her is changing in an alarming way. The island, which has always sustained everyone's life, begins to show clear signs of collapse. What seemed like just a bad phase was, in fact, the harbinger of something much more serious. It was nature responding to a force that was awakening, and this force was getting closer. Moana's grandmother was always seen as a different person in the village. She was respected, but also considered a little strange by many. She liked to talk about the spirit of the ocean, about her ancestors, and about things that no one else could see. As time went by, she began to act even more unusually. She spoke to the sea as if it could talk back. She would spend hours alone at the water's edge, staring at the horizon and murmuring words that no one understood. These changes attracted attention, but no one took them very seriously. Most people thought it was just signs of aging, but she was seeing something that others didn't. She said there was an ancient, living presence deep in the ocean. She said something was moving, slowly waking up, as if it had been asleep for centuries and was now ready to return. And this presence was calling for someone. It was calling for Moana. One day, the grandmother woke up scared and warned her granddaughter that the sea was no longer trustworthy. She said it was lying, that there were voices hidden in the waves, and that she should not trust the signs it gave her. According to her, there was a song coming from the waters, a sound that seemed beautiful, but was dangerous. It was like a trap set to seduce, and whoever followed it would be heading straight for something terrible. Before she died, the grandmother gave Moana what everyone believed to be the heart of Te Fiti, but she made a strange request. She asked Moana not to take that stone back to the sea. She said that if she could, she should bury it, hide it, destroy it. It was a clear but confusing warning. No one knew for sure what it meant. This moment is important because it marks a real attempt to prevent what was about to happen. The grandmother tried to warn. She sensed the truth behind the signs and tried to protect Moana and the island, but no one understood the gravity of it. The vision she had was the last warning before everything fell apart. In the traditional story, Moana sets out on a journey because she feels it is her duty to restore balance to the world. But in this darker version, her departure is not by choice or courage. She leaves because she is pulled, as if something were forcing her to do so. The sea, which everyone thought was her ally, acts strangely. It does not help. It does not protect. It presses, it pushes, and it seems to be testing her resistance. The journey begins in a confusing way. Moana feels that something is wrong, but she cannot stop. Everything seems to go wrong at first, but she continues anyway. The winds change direction without explanation. The waves become violent. The sky suddenly closes in. These are not just natural challenges. It is as if the environment itself is trying to scare her and at the same time guide her. During the crossing, she begins to have strange sensations. At night, she hears sounds coming from the water, voices that seem to whisper words that she does not understand. Sometimes she feels like she's being watched. At certain moments, she sees shadows moving beneath the boat. Nothing attacks, but everything seems to be lurking. There's no sense of safety, just a constant tension in the air. Moana also begins to doubt herself. She is no longer sure if she's doing the right thing, but every time she thinks about going back, something happens. The boat breaks down, the current changes, or a storm pushes her forward. It's as if there's no other option, as if the sea has closed all the ways back. This point in the story shows that Moana's journey is no longer a heroic quest. It's a trap. She believes she's following a calling for good, but she's being led into something much darker. There's no real choice. The journey isn't about saving the world. It's about fulfilling a destiny that was already set before she was even born. And with each passing day, she gets closer to what should never have been agreed upon. Maui is presented as a powerful, almost legendary figure. In the original story, he is the demigod who stole the heart of Te Fiti and caused the world to become unbalanced. But in this darker version, the truth is quite different. Maui is not the villain. He is someone who tried to prevent a tragedy and ended up being seen as the culprit. What no one knew was that the theft of the heart was in fact an act of desperation. He did not want power. He wanted to prevent something much worse from happening. When Moana finds Maui, he is not confident or excited. He is hidden, afraid, and visibly exhausted. He avoids the subject of the heart and tries to convince Moana to return home. He says that she does not understand what she is doing and that, contrary to what everyone has been taught, returning the heart could have irreversible consequences. Maui knows what is dormant and what can happen if it is released. During the conversation, Maui reveals that the heart was not only a symbol of life and creation, it was also a key, a piece that, if placed in the wrong place, can awaken an ancient, powerful, and completely destructive entity. According to him, this entity had already tried to escape once in the past and almost destroyed everything. So he sealed it away and fled, taking the heart with him to prevent it from being used again. Moana, however, doesn't believe him right away. She was raised to see Maui as the cause of the problem. The idea that he tried to protect the world sounds absurd to her at first, but little by little, she begins to realize that something doesn't match what she's learned. The behavior of the sea, the strange signs, the disturbing dreams. Everything starts to make more sense as she listens to Maui. This moment is important because it completely changes the way the story is seen. The hero becomes the one responsible for trying to prevent the disaster, and the supposed chosen one becomes the threat. The relationship between Moana and Maui is not one of alliance, but of conflict and tension. It represents the last barrier between her and the liberation of a force that should not exist. And this barrier is about to be broken. The heart of Te Fiti has always been shown as a symbol of life, energy, and creation. In the original story, it glows green, representing the force of nature. But in this dark version, that glow begins to fade. Little by little, what once seemed beautiful and magical begins to transform into something frightening. The green color becomes darker, then it begins to glow red. It is not a common red, it is something that reminds us of blood and danger. And along with this change, signs appear that the object is alive in some way. Moana realizes that when she touches the heart, she begins to feel strange things. She hears whispers, feels chills even when it is not cold, and has sensations that she cannot explain. Sometimes she feels anger for no reason. Other times, she feels deep sadness. The object, which once seemed like a beautiful piece, now seems to be stirring inside her. And that's not all. When other people get close, they feel bad. Some even faint or vomit. It's as if the heart is releasing a heavy negative energy. Maui, upon realizing this, confirms that the object has been corrupted. He explains that because it was ripped from the place where it sealed the entity of the depths, the heart began to absorb the energy of that evil presence. Instead of being a source of life, it became a tool of destruction. And the longer Moana carries the heart, the more this energy grows inside her. This moment marks the definitive turning point in her journey. Now it's not just a misguided mission. Moana is being transformed. She is becoming part of the evil she is trying to awaken, and the heart, which everyone believed to be the solution, reveals itself to be the real problem. The change in color is the clearest sign that what she carries will not save anyone. It's going to end everything. This part of the story shows that not everything that shines is good. Sometimes what seems magical hides something very dangerous. And when the signs are right in front of us, ignoring them can be the worst possible mistake. Throughout her life, Moana has seen the sea as something beautiful, calm, and full of life. It was the symbol of freedom, adventure, and connection with her ancestors. But as she approaches the destination of her journey, the sea begins to change. The waters that were once crystal clear become dark. The vibrant blue turns into grayish tones, almost black. The sunlight no longer reflects in the same way, and everything around seems heavier, quieter, as if the ocean were holding its breath. It's not just the color of the water that changes. The texture also seems different. At times, the waves seem slower and thicker. When Moana touches the sea, she has the sensation of touching something dense, almost like wet skin. This sensation generates discomfort. The sea begins to emit strange noises like muffled moans or distant beats, similar to a beating heart. From then on, she begins to understand that what is under the water is not just waking up, it is merging with the ocean. During the night, the situation worsens. Moana observes shapes moving under the boat. They are not clear, but they seem enormous. Some have tentacle-like movements. At other times, she sees eyes opening in the middle of the waves. These eyes disappear soon after, but leave a deep feeling that she is being watched all the time. The sea is no longer a path. It is now a living entity that breathes, observes, and moves with its own will. This point in the story shows that Moana is no longer traveling through a natural environment. She is sailing on top of a giant creature, or something that has spread throughout the entire ocean like a disease. The water is no longer water. Now it is alive, and this life is not good. It is a dark consciousness that has been released little by little and is about to take shape. What was once Moana's greatest ally now becomes a constant threat. Every wave, every sound, every silence has a different weight. The feeling of security disappears completely. The journey that seemed heroic becomes suffocating. And the ocean itself, which everyone believed to be protective, reveals its true face, a living body ready to swallow everything. In the original version of the story, Te Fiti is a magical island with the power to create life. Moana travels there to return the stolen heart, believing that this will restore balance to the world. But in this dark version, upon reaching the final destination of her journey, she discovers a shocking truth. The island of Te Fiti simply does not exist. There is no sign of life. There is no vegetation. There is no solid ground. All she finds is a void in the middle of the ocean, as if something gigantic had been ripped from its place. What she sees is not an island. It is an opening in the sea, a huge, deep, and completely dark crater. It does not look like an ordinary hole, and it does not look like something natural either. It is as if the ocean itself had split there. The silence in the place is absolute. The air seems still, and even the waves behave differently, as if they were avoiding that space. Everything there gives the feeling that it should not be touched or even seen. Moana feels a strange attraction to this crater. Even though she is afraid, she feels the need to get closer. And when she reaches the edge, something in her body reacts. The heart she carries begins to vibrate more strongly. It glows brightly, not as before, but with a pulsating red light. Instead of returning the heart to a sleeping goddess, she is faced with a sealed prison. And the object she carries in her hands will not restore anything. It will open what should remain closed. Maui's presence, which until then had resisted, disappears. He runs away, unable to face what is about to happen. Moana descends alone, increasingly dominated by the feeling that she is fulfilling a destiny that has already been decided by greater forces. She no longer questions. She does not hesitate. Her body moves as if it were being guided. The heart finally fits into a crack at the base of the crater. This moment marks the most important revelation of the story. The journey was not to restore anything. It was to free something. The island was never there because it was destroyed in the past, precisely to prevent the return of this entity. Everything Moana believed was a lie. Each step she took brought her closer to opening an ancient prison hidden beneath the ocean. Now, with the key inserted, there is no turning back. After Moana places the heart in the crack inside the crater, the entire ocean begins to react. First, there is absolute silence. Everything stops. The waves disappear, the wind dies down, and even the sounds of the ship itself seem to cease. Soon after, the water begins to stir. But this time, it is not. In a natural way, it is as if it is moving of its own accord, as if it were alive. The surface of the sea begins to bubble, cracks open around the crater, and a dark, almost solid light begins to emerge. Moana observes everything without fear. She no longer seems to be the same person. Her gaze is empty, her expression cold. It is as if something inside her has been turned off. In fact, the time she spent carrying the corrupted heart allowed the entity to influence her thoughts and emotions. Little by little, she was controlled until she became part of the plan. Now, she is the channel through which this ancient creature will return to the world. From the bottom of the crater, something begins to rise. It has no defined shape. It is a gigantic mass made of shadow, water, and tentacles. Its movements are slow and heavy, as if it were waking up after sleeping for thousands of years. There is no face, but there are eyes everywhere. Eyes that open and close at random, scattered throughout this thing that is emerging. The sensation around changes completely. The air becomes denser. The light in the sky darkens even without clouds. The entire climate seems to respond to the presence of the creature. Maui tries to return. He observes everything from afar and realizes that it is too late. Even with his strength, he is unable to contain what has been released. In a last effort, he attacks the entity with his magic hook, but is completely swallowed. There is no fight. There is no chance. It disappears without a trace. The creature does not even react, as if Maui's presence were insignificant compared to its magnitude. The presence of the entity now dominates the ocean. It does not need to speak. Its existence is enough to affect everything around it. The water is infected. The sky has lost its color. Animals flee or die, and Moana, now transformed, observes everything calmly. She does not fear the creature. On the contrary, she has become its representative, her link to the real world. This moment represents the point of no return. Evil has awakened, not as a common villain, but as an ancient, incomprehensible, and unstoppable force. Nothing will be the same again. The liberation of the entity marks the beginning of a new era, where the rules of nature and reality begin to unravel. After the entity awakens, the ocean does not return to normal. It changes completely. The water takes on a dark, almost black color, with a strange glow that seems to pulse in some places, as if it were alive. The waves no longer follow the natural rhythm of the wind or the moon. They move as if they obeyed something invisible. It is as if the sea itself had stopped being an element of nature and had become part of a gigantic body. The ocean has become an organism controlled by this newly released presence. The island of Motunui, where it all began, is still there, but something is different. The sky above it remains cloudy. The heat has increased without explanation. The locals feel that something is wrong, even if they do not know exactly what. The silence is strange. The animals seem restless, and the sea is further away than usual. It has receded. The beach has stretched for hundreds of meters, something that should be a warning sign, but many still do not understand what it really means. This receding of the sea is not common. It lasts for hours, and when the water finally returns, it doesn't come slowly. It comes with force in the form of a giant wave, much larger than anyone has ever seen. It's not a simple storm surge, it's a wall of dark water that moves, as if it has purpose. It doesn't just destroy, it consumes. In seconds, the entire village disappears. Houses, trees, people, everything is swept away, and there's no sign that it ever existed. At the top of the wave, for a brief moment, someone appears. It's Moana. But she's not scared. She doesn't look human anymore either. Her eyes are dark, her skin pale, and her expression is blank. She watches everything from above as if she's watching something she already knew was going to happen. There's no anger or pain on her face, just a strange calm, almost cold. This last scene isn't just the end of the island. It symbolizes the beginning of something bigger. The sea, now controlled by this force, can reach anywhere. The destruction of Motunui was just the first step. Moana, now transformed, has become the link between the human world and this entity. And she is still there, on top of the water, watching. The world doesn't know that something has been freed. But they will find out, little by little, when other beaches start to disappear. Now that you've seen the other side of the story, be warned, not everything that seems beautiful is safe. Be careful, because the Moana you knew no longer exists. What was left in her place is something that no one can stop. And she is still out there. She may be in the sea, she may be watching, and the worst part is that no one will notice until it is too late. If this video made sense to you, if it opened your eyes, then you know. Don't trust every story you are told, because evil sometimes comes disguised as a mission